time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
On a Friday. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Good to have you all with us. Lot to do over the next 60 minutes. Tino Pattigno drops by because it's Friday on Sports Wrap, and that means it's a NASCAR Friday. We'll also be hanging out with Damon Bruce, host of Damon Bruce Plus. You can catch it over on YouTube. Big sports radio guy also in the Bay Area. Get some thoughts with him on the Oakland A's final game yesterday. I'm not going to lie, I shed some tears watching that yesterday. As somebody who's attended games in that stadium, both football and baseball, I feel for that fan base. I definitely can understand a lot of what they're going through as somebody who cheered for the Hartford Whalers growing up and watching them leave Hartford. It never gets easier watching teams leave the places they are. You know, it's one thing to lose a game. So, you know, I watched the Yankees lose a World Series at Yankee Stadium. I watched the Marlins celebrate, and that was tough. I can't imagine what it's like to be there live watching your team leave. Just can't. I can't fathom it. But a whole bunch of people were there yesterday, sellout crowd in Oakland for the finale for the A's, who beat the Rangers 3-2. All right, Sam Yarnell, with all that having been said, started out on an upbeat note. Giants and Cowboys last night kicked off week 4 in the NFL. Hope you tailed us on the Giants getting 5.5. Ooh, it was a close call, though. I mean, who in their right mind thought Brandon Aubrey was going to miss a 50-yard field goal, which for him is a chip shot, which would have made it an 8-point game late. And Sam, you know, there's two ways we can look at this, and we were talking about it off the air. Let's bring the conversation on the air. You can make the argument that the Cowboys should have won this game by 3 touchdowns. You could also make the argument in the same vein that the Giants, if they catch a few balls in the fourth quarter that Daniel Jones put in the right spots and receivers didn't make catches on, the Giants could just as easily have walked away with a win in this game. It went under. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, we gave out the Giants plus 5.5 because that point spread was always way too big. I don't know if I can confidently say that the Giants really could have won this game. I think, like, if we even talk about these plays that the Giants, you're right, very easily should have made. And I think that's one of the areas where they kind of separate themselves from the contenders in the league.
Yeah.
But all that said, I think that, like, even if we talk about those plays being made and Dallas still playing the horrible, terrible, awful football that they played in this game, we're looking at like an overtime. I thought for like a lot of the fourth quarter, this felt like an overtime game, which for people on the dog like you and I, that's great. That spells a lot of success. For under bettors like you and I, that doesn't spell a lot of success. So, but regardless, you know, I said this yesterday on the program, and I think it only became more true during the game last night. The Cowboys this year, they're jacked, right? Like we talk about Jags in sports, just another guy. The Cowboys are just another team. And as much as we want to pretend that Dak Prescott is a top 10 quarterback and they've got all these explosive weapons outside of CeeDee Lamb, spoiler alert, they don't. I just don't see how we're going to get past the Dallas Cowboys being any better than the 16th best team in the NFL, because right now that's what they feel like they're playing like to me. And through the first now 4 games of the season, that's what they've looked like, is a 9-8 team, an 8-9 team, a team that's not going to beat anybody impressive, a team that's going to struggle against teams like the New York Giants to close them out late in the fourth quarter. And quite frankly, if it weren't for a Daniel Jones interception, cha-ching, with 5 seconds to go in that game, we could still be playing right now. The Cowboys this year, there is something materially wrong. Something's got to change with Mike McCarthy. He's now, I believe, 14-6 in his last 20 games. He's got 3 playoff losses, though, compared to 1 playoff win in his tenure in Dallas. They're going to be just another team as long as he's there, Jason. They're proving it to us in front of our very eyes this season.
I'll tell you something. Again, I think part of their problem is their schedule. Because, you know, some teams have better schedules, some teams have lesser schedules. I just think they get hit in the face with the schedule. I can make and I mean this, and I don't mean to sound like I'm hedging, because that's Sam's role in the show. He is the major gardener. I don't mean to sound like I'm hedging, but I can make an argument. This is going to sound nuts, Sam. I can make just as much of an argument because the NFC East is kind of mid, because I don't have a lot of faith in Philly. We don't know what Washington is yet. We got a taste, but we don't know what Washington is yet. We know what the Giants are. I could just as much make an argument for the Cowboys to somehow scratch out that division as I can them missing the playoffs altogether. I honestly can, because it's, it could go either way to me. And again, I don't mean to sound like I'm hedging, because I know I am, but I think the biggest thing working against them is they have such a difficult schedule. And we talked about it yesterday on the show. At the Steelers, home for the Lions, at the Niners, at the Falcons, home for the Eagles. That's the next 5. And then it's home for the Texans after that. So, I mean, their next 6 games at 2-2, I think we'll know a lot about the Cowboys by the time we get, just around Thanksgiving. I think that's when we're going to kind of know what the Cowboys are, because right now I just can't put my finger on it. And I'm like you, something's amiss, something doesn't feel right, but at the same time, there's still a lot of time to figure that out. There's still plenty of time to sort of turn the ship around a little bit if you feel like it's going in the wrong direction. I cannot cast a verdict. You sound like you're ready to cast a verdict. I can't cast a verdict yet.
So I'm not complete. I don't say I'll completely cast my verdict after week 4 or after a team's 4th game. But I will say, to date, this team has not looked like a playoff team. Jason, you're exactly right about their schedule when we talk about how hard the teams they're playing are and the teams they have to play in a row. But when you look at the other part of their schedule, the rest factor of it, my friend Warren Sharp over at Sharp Football Analysis does a very interesting net rest edge calculation. And the Cowboys throughout the course of the season are going to be bottom 10 in that category. They're not going to have a lot of time between games to try and right this ship. They are in a very tough spot. And on top of that, to your point about the NFC East, they're playing the 3rd best football in the division right now.
I'm not there. I think them and Philly are about even right now in terms of how they're playing. I'm just on the.
And you think Washington's better than both of them?
They might all be tied. All right, segment 2 coming up in 10 minutes. Damon Bruce on the A's departure from Oakland becoming official yesterday with their final home game. Get some thoughts with him on that. He was at the final series. He was at the final night game. Did you see what the A's gave their fans for the final series as a gift? Oh, you're going to want to see this. All right, Sam Yarnell, before we get into the 2 games that you and I want to watch coming up this weekend, the 2 games that we're going to be most interested in, I was just looking. We talk about how hard the Cowboys' schedule is, and they just get smashed in the face with a frying pan. The Commanders' next 6 games, I might run to my nearest legal bookmaking institution and put money on the Commanders to win the division. And here's why. Here's their next 6. At the Cardinals, home for the Browns, at the Ravens, then home for the Panthers, home for the Bears, at the Giants. Now, I know you're glass half empty guy. You could make an argument they could win 5 of the next 6 games. Could. They're certainly not going to be overwhelming underdogs in those games, with the exception of the Ravens. So I'm just saying.
Just make sure I have this
and
straight.
The Eagles,
Jason is now asking me to make an argument for a team who I gave out to win the Super Bowl the day after the last Super Bowl? Come on, man. I mean, this is why you listen to the Prince of Picks. The Washington Commanders are here, and they are here to stay. Jaden Daniels has proven himself as a dynamic quarterback in this league, Jason. This is a team that, on top of the cupcake schedule you just mentioned in terms of the teams they're playing, I talked in the last segment about net rest edge. I think it's a very important metric when you're looking at strength of schedule. The Commanders are top 12 in net rest edge as we go down the course of the season. This is a team that is going to have every opportunity to learn and get better and rebuild and improve throughout the course of an 18-week season. I am ecstatic about the Washington Commanders.
That's it? There's no but? I was waiting for a but in there. I was waiting for like the dot.
No,
Oh, okay.
No.
All right.
No, I seriously am. And, you know, I said it like I mentioned. You and I were talking about this when we were doing our way too early NFL preview. This is a team that is in a division that is poised to collapse upon themselves. And we're seeing it in front of our very eyes. Look at the situation in Philly with Nick Sirianni and look at the situation in Dallas with Mike McCarthy. Neither of those are going well. Here comes Dan Quinn with his trusty old Commanders and their rookie quarterback. They're going to take that division right out of their hands. I'm with you on this. I am totally with you. And what I'll say on top of that, you only mentioned the next 6 games, and I know that you said that the back end of their schedule is very hard. But what I will say about late in the season is teams that have overperformed forget how bad they really are. As much as we talk about teams not knowing they're bad early in the season, teams that overperform late in the season forget their weaknesses and at points how bad they really were. So I'll take the Commanders 6 ways to this Sunday.
All right. Let's talk about this Sunday. Give me 2 games that you like, or 2 games that you're going to be watching with most interest in week 4, Sam.
I mean, come on.
Quickly.
We just talked about it. Commanders at Cardinals. I want to see Jaden Daniels throw the ball around the yard. I think he goes for 250 plus. I think Kyler Murray probably throws for a bunch of yards too. Couple of weak offenses here. I'm expecting a lot of points. We'll call it a party over if you're looking for that this weekend. Marvin Harrison probably has a big game in this one. I just think there's going to be a ton of offense in this game. I can't wait to watch all the boys run around the yard out in Arizona. Commanders Cardinals is my mainstay big game of the week. And then my other one, Jason, got to be the NFC South battle between the Saints and the Falcons. I mean, these are 2 teams who haven't lived up to what we thought they were going to be. For the Saints, obviously, they've been a lot better than any of us expected. And the Falcons have not shown to be the prolific team that we thought they would be, especially coming into this season. So I'm very interested. Huge narrative game down in Atlanta for me. Commanders, Cardinals, and Saints Falcons are the 2 that I'm locking in on this weekend.
It's certainly a 3-team race over in the NFC South. Vikings and Packers, obviously a huge game in the NFC North. Big implications there. We know what the Vikings have been through the first 3 games. I mean, you could probably argue this is their biggest test thus far. A home win over Houston was impressive, but remember, Joe Mixon didn't play in that game. Houston, obviously, not with its full complement of players. And granted, the Packers I don't know. Will they have Jordan Love back this week? Have they ruled him out yet? I mean, have they said? I don't think they've ruled him out yet, have they?
They haven't, but that's because they're doing the Packers thing where they just want to keep the other team confused. I think it's pretty widely accepted Malik Willis is starting this game again, especially after how good he looked last week.
And by the way, I expect the Vikings to win that game. A little bit of foreshadowing for Page versus the Prince a little later on in the show. But the Vikings and Packers is definitely one game I will have an eye on. The other, let's go AFC. Steelers and Colts. We know what Pittsburgh has been. Anthony Richardson has not impressed me through the first few games of this season. Needs to step up, and he's going to have to do it against one of the best defenses in football. And guess what? Defense travels, baby. And they don't have to travel a long way just going from Pittsburgh to Indianapolis. Steelers and Colts is the other game that I'll have an eye on. And can I throw in a bonus? Can I give you a little extra? How about Georgia and Alabama? A little college football this weekend. I mean, we haven't talked about it other than with Bill Bender at the beginning of the week, but I mean, it's Georgia, Alabama. No matter what you think of these teams and where Alabama is post Nick Saban era, give me any time I could have a little Georgia, Alabama. I'm into that, and can I throw in one more college game? I'll give you two pro, 2 college. I want to see what UNLV looks like without Matthew Sluka this weekend in their Mountain West Conference opener against Fresno State. I'll give you a little bonus there on the games that I'm most excited about. By the way, keep an eye out on MSNBC.com. I've got a column that should be coming out today on the NIL situation in college. I wrote that last night. Should be going up at some point today over on MSNBC.com in their opinion section.
So for Georgia, Alabama,
yeah.
I'll say this right now.
Mm-hmm.
I like Georgia. I like Georgia in the spot. I would like Alabama if there were a guy named Nick Saban there, because we all know 48-2 and the 2 losses, both to Alabama. That was the stretch that Georgia went through, in case you didn't know what I was referencing. Yes, that was their record. 48 wins, 2 losses, and the 2 losses came to Nick Saban in Alabama. Give me Georgia, and I'm locking in on Virginia Tech and Miami. Give me Va Tech plus the 17.5. Ugh.
I want UConn minus 5.5 against Buffalo. Go Jim Mora and the Huskies, baby. We're coming back. More sports wrap. Damon Bruce on the A's next.
The 1-2, Jankowski to Schumann. And the ground ball will end things. A 3-2 win for the Oakland Athletics. One more win for the Oakland fans.
A W on a day that everybody in the Bay needed one.
Welcome back to Sports Wrap. Good to have you with us on this Friday edition of the show. You heard the call, saw the call. NBC Sports California as the A's close out their tenure in Oakland after 57 years with a win. Mason Miller, 104 on the gun to get the final out from Travis Jankowski, and the A's win 3-2 in front of a sellout crowd. Damon Bruce joins us on Sports Wrap. Whenever it's about the Bay Area sports scene, one of the people I love to talk to most. He was at the final series here over the last few days. Checked out the game. Got a nice little commemorative ticket, too, that he showed me before we came. There it is. Come on, give me that commemorative ticket.
You want to see what a half-century of loyalty buys you if you were unlucky enough to be predisposed to root for a John Fisher-owned team. Jason, you get, is this a bookmark? Is this a commemorative bookmark? By the time you order 50,000 of these, do you think they even come in at 4 cents a unit? I mean, could they have done less? Which I guess summarizes the ownership group that has ruined another sport in the city of Oakland. What a shame, and it's good to be with you, brother. How are you?
What is? I'm okay. I'm not gonna lie. I shed some tears watching it today, and I'm always brought back to the Hartford Whalers leaving Hartford and being from Connecticut. That still tears me up if I go back and watch that today.
I had a Brendan Shanahan jersey.
See?
I did.
There you go. But it breaks my heart to watch the way all of this unfolded. Did you feel the way being at the game? You were at the last night game. Being at the last night game, did you feel the way you thought you would feel watching it all play out?
It was a little bit of an open casket. It was a wake more than it was a funeral, because I'll tell you, everyone here is just holding out a little bit of hope that historically is not unfounded or misplaced. John Fisher's going to screw this up, Jason. He's going to screw up the move to Vegas. He's going to screw up the transition or the temporary stop in Sacramento. Vivek Ranadive, who cleared the path for him to get to Sacramento, owner of the Sacramento Kings, is a smart enough shark to smell blood in the water. We know that the state of Utah is looking to make an investment in Major League Baseball. We know that the city of Portland is exploring opportunities for Major League Baseball. And I don't know how you could explain it to me like a child or like an adult that John Fisher is the right guy to own any major league property with as much of a disaster. I mean, how many markets would you like the man to ruin? It's like he's salting the earth wherever he goes. And if I were the city of Las Vegas, here's my warning sign. This is the kind of businessman you're getting involved with if you actually let this guy come to Las Vegas. So there's nothing that they can't screw up. And I walked out of there saying, man, this is an emotional last series here, and I guess we'll see you all back here on opening day. I mean, watch him screw it up somehow, some way. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
And you know, I've talked to a couple of people. I was talking to Jason Burke, who was covering the team, I guess, this year in anticipation of this last homestand, and he was talking about it. And he said the same thing. Like, you get the sense that all of you guys out there are just holding out hope that somehow the only hope would be Major League Baseball forces him to sell the franchise if he does botch up Sacramento and Vegas and all of this stuff, that MLB forces him to sell the franchise and Joe Lacob drops, parachutes in and says, I'm going to save the franchise.
He'd do it tonight, Jason.
Yeah, I know he would.
Do it this morning. He would do it now. And it's just a shame that John Fisher has decided that, I don't know, maybe this is like him trying to prove himself to his dad that he's worthy of the inheritance, that he can actually make something out of something. I don't know. But like I said, you can't even explain it to me like an adult, just like a cold, hard, we're going to pull out the spreadsheet. We're going to talk about money and finances. And that's why this all makes sense. Fisher doesn't have the money, the finances to get this done. Not anywhere yet, not in Sacramento, not in Las Vegas, nowhere. He doesn't seem to be wealthy enough to have enough juice to actually get a shovel into the ground in any location. So that is the hope that I would think. My fear, though, Jason, is that Major League Baseball is so publicly pot committed to this move that they will help him move. More than just like waiving expansion fees or relocation fees, that they're so pot committed to this being a reality that they're going to hammer it through almost to spite. I don't even know who's getting spoked at that point, but I would not be surprised if baseball just says, look, we got to power John Fisher through a negotiation and we have to close deals for him that he's incapable of closing himself to save what would be an entire, dozen eggs on their face.
Damon, I have always felt like his goal was to just move the franchise, bulk up the valuation, and then sell it. Am I reading that wrong?
No,
that's always been my feeling.
Deal.
Yeah, that's always been my feeling. And if Major League Baseball knows that, I don't know why they're going along with it.
All you need to do is be rich to own a Major League Baseball team. Do they really care, like, who the rich guy is at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And what drives me nuts is, you always hear people trying to make excuses saying, well, these owners, they circle the wagons around themselves. They never want the group coming for them maybe one day, so they will defend each other. I reject that. Baseball is dotted with the ousting of lousy owners. It is throughout the history of Major League Baseball, from the Dodgers and Frank McCourt for money reasons and dislikable reasons to Marge Schott for racist reasons. They have flushed owners that have been bad for business throughout baseball's history. And why this owner escapes that flush, I do not know. And it feels like it has happened because we have two people who are in charge of this, who don't like baseball as much as guys like you and me do, or any fans does. Rob Manfred is a feckless owner who called the World Series, a hunk of metal. Like you just told me right there, you don't get what it is we're doing over here. And for John Fisher to really just own a Major League Baseball team through the prism of the eventual real estate deal that he can craft, it's so insulting. And it feels like if one of these two guys were removed for the equation would be a lot different.
Damon Bruce does a great job. Damon Bruce Plus on YouTube, by the way. I forgot to promote that.
Sir.
People, please go and check out his daily show over there. Next time we have you on, we're going to have to talk about the 49ers. Some health issues there.
Hey, let me congratulate you. Forget about plugging YouTube, brother. Your channel, your TV show, it's all growing. It's all happening. I'm so proud of you. You worked so hard for it.
Thank you.
Congrats.
That means the world to me. Thank you. We're coming back with more Sports Wrap on this Friday. Sports Wrap continues. Good to be with you on this Friday edition of the program. Still to come, Paige versus the Prince. The battle for NFL handicapping supremacy. Something to consider as well. But it's Friday, and that means it's a NASCAR Friday, and there is Tino Pattigno. You know what I meant? I've always been meaning to ask you this. You'd think I would have asked you this off the air, but I'm going to ask you on the air. Where'd you get the gold jacket?
Oh, wow. Yeah, the gold jacket I got from Macy's, and I have to shout out my sister because at the time, yeah, and I you would think like I found it in a alternate universe or something
Goodwill
crazy like
basket.
that.
I thought like a Goodwill bin.
Yeah. And no, so my sister, shout out to her. She was working at Macy's at the time. I went in, I saw it, and I knew right then and there it meant something special. So she hooked me up with a little Macy's gold jacket there. So I appreciate that.
That is fantastic. Let's talk about it. Now we're down to 12 as NASCAR's playoffs continue. Kansas this week, the Hollywood 400. But before we get to this week's race, we got to spend a few minutes on last week. And a few minutes was about all that Kyle Larson wasn't in the lead in this race. All but, 36 laps, something like that. A dominant performance, one of the most dominant by a Hendrick driver ever, if not the most. Give me a bit of a recap on what we missed, because apparently it was just a whole bunch of people staring at the back of Kyle Larson's car.
Yeah, exactly right. And it was the most dominant race I've ever seen from a Hendrick Motorsports driver, with him leading 462 laps, which was the most from, and you talk about Hendrick Motorsports. Well, for some of you out there who may not know, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., those are type of names that came under that roof from that building there. Some of the all-time greats as well. That I can go on and on. The list of great drivers that came from that organization. And Kyle Larson just went out there and dominated that race. And what was interesting to see was the fact that he did so in such a way that had NASCAR scratching their heads, because they brought a tire to this racetrack that they expected fall off to happen. And when you have fall off, you have opportunity for cars racing closer together, more passes and everything like that. And when Kyle Larson won by 7 seconds, that was something they did not expect in this race. It was tough because we saw that in the spring. Bristol was a phenomenal race because of the outrageous, crazy tire wear that was had in that race, and we just didn't see the same exact thing there in this round. I think the reason was different temperatures, more grip on the racetrack. You also had trucks and Xfinity Series racing prior to the Cup action on a Saturday, so that could all be accumulation there as to why that happened for Larson.
It's, you look at Truex Jr., Keselowski, Ty Gibb. Now we're down to 12. Of the 12 drivers remaining, we obviously know who the favorites are here, as far as, to win this playoff chase. Are there guys towards the back of that now, as we've got a couple more races and then another elimination? Are there guys towards the back that you still think have a chance, and if so, who?
Definitely. And to put things in perspective, we have 3 races now in this round. It is the round of 12. 12 drivers have a chance to continue on for the NASCAR championship. After these 3 races, 4 will be eliminated. The round of 8, another 3 races, and then the championship 4. So to me, when I look at these drivers, and the one specifically, like you mentioned, that people may not be noticing here below the cut line, is Chase Briscoe. He was one of the ones that won the walk-off grand slam to make it into the playoffs, and then he advances to the round of 12. And that's pretty impressive when you consider Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski, Ty Gibbs, and Harrison Burton all being eliminated. Those are some drivers in top-tier equipment from Joe Gibbs Racing. Brad Keselowski, former champion. Chase Briscoe outperformed all of them in the last round. I think he has a good shot to do so again, and we're looking at him to win the NASCAR championship at 100-1 right now. So it is something that I have my eye on because of those odds, and also because there are tracks in this round that suit his driving style. Maybe Kansas this weekend isn't necessarily one of them, but then we see a super speedway in Talladega, and then we go to the Charlotte Roval, which is a road course racing action there that could really see the 14 car Briscoe, if they have a strong run or potentially be in position to win, be able to continue advance and really push that underdog story.
Tyler Reddick won this race last year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's one of the guys that's one of the favorites here. He is the 3rd best odds according to FanDuel to win. Obviously, Kyle Larson, your favorite at 400, Denny Hamlin at 5, and then Reddick at 850. How do you handicap this race?
Well, to me, I'm looking at the favorites right now in Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin, and that's understandably so. They are most weeks throughout this NASCAR season. But at plus 400 and plus 550 for Larson and Denny there, I'm going to wait until after practice and qualifying if I'm going to take any of those two favorites, because in the top 5 of those drivers who finished in this race in the spring, most of them were starting outside the top 10. So we could see Denny Hamlin, who's not the best qualifier, get a little odds boost because of that factor there. Now, for Tyler Reddick at plus 850, who you mentioned, well, him being in a Toyota is a benefit, as Toyota has won 9 of the last 15 races at this racetrack, and it also fits his driving style. So for Reddick to be plus 850, I expect him to have a strong practice, strong qualifying effort as well. If he does so, that number could be cut in half. So closing line value on Tyler Reddick will be huge. Same thing with Toyota teammate and Christopher Bell, 13-1 for him. Christopher Bell, 3 poles in the last 5 races at this racetrack, and those 2 drivers specifically run really well at tracks where you have to rip the high line, get the most speed coming into corner entry, out of corner exit, and I think they can benefit from this one at Kansas.
I've got about 15 seconds. Give me a non-playoff driver with a shot to win this weekend.
I love that question because the answer is going to be Bubba Wallace, 24-1 to do so. He's won here before. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him running up front.
All right. It's Tino Pattigno hanging out with us as always. Does a great job on all things NASCAR, Sirius XM as well. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Let's win it at Kansas.
Page versus the Prince coming up in 10 minutes to wrap up the show. Our favorite picks for week 4 in the NFL. I have been Mr. Mediocre. Sam has been a little better than that. All right, Sam, something to consider on this Friday edition of Sports Wrap. You heard from Damon Bruce earlier in the show, waxing poetic about the A's time in Oakland and the dysfunction that has ensued over the last several years since John Fisher took over. You've obviously heard me have my say on it as well. Sam, I wanted to give you a moment with the A's playing their final game at the Coliseum yesterday in front of a sellout crowd to real quickly give your thoughts on their final game in Oakland.
Yeah, so obviously I don't remember the storied history of Oakland, the three-peat, the Ricky Hendersons. My memory of the Oakland Athletics and the Oakland Coliseum spans about Moneyball to Dallas Braden's Perfect Game. Those are kind of the 2 memories that I associate with the Athletics and the Coliseum. And no, I'm not talking about the actual era of Moneyball. I'm talking about the movie. What this is doing, what John Fisher is single-handedly doing to not only a community, but to a sport, is something that we all need to make sure that we understand fully, because it's going to happen. But what he is doing is strong-arming people, including using the death of a man to strong-arm other owners into letting him move this team. He is tearing apart 1/30th of Major League Baseball just because of his own personal greed. John Fisher's a guy who, through his family's history, had a pretty good reputation and then single-handedly ruined it with his ownership of the Oakland Athletics and the repeated cheapness that he has displayed. So we just need to understand that as lovers of the game, that this man is single-handedly shredding apart 1/30th of our sport.
Amen. The Yankees clinched last night. Yes, the Yankees win. And John Sterling was on the call.
I thought he retired.
Yankees win. And they wrap up a division. They wrap up a first round or an playoff bye, I guess you can call it. Yankees and Dodgers will have byes in the opening round of the postseason. I'll tell you, take all of the, you knew they were going to win the division. They weren't going to obviously choke away the division with the lead they had. Most encouraging, way Garrett Cole pitched last night. That looked like the Garrett Cole that you signed up for these big moments. He was really good last night, pitched into the 7th inning of that game. If you have that Garrett Cole in the postseason, with or without Nestor Cortez, this Yankee rotation thing's going to kind of work itself out. It always does because somebody always gets hurt. And in this case, it's Nestor Cortez, who's not going to be able to pitch until at least the ALCS, which makes you wonder if he's going to pitch at all. Yeah, Yankees doing things. Aaron Judge, another home run. Giancarlo Stanton, a home run last night. I wonder if Judge gets to 60 before the end of the weekend. That'd be kind of cool. And by the way, you are set up right now. If the playoffs started today, we have a setup where we could have Yankees Astros in the ALCS. Sign, period, me, period, up.
Yeah. Really quick.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't think the Yankees have clinched that first round bye yet. I think the Guardians are still in contention if everything goes south for the Yankees this weekend and the Guardians win out. So I think the Yankees could still avoid that first round bye, which for you, Jason, as a Yankees fan, would be huge because we all know the horrible history of teams that get lucky enough to get that first round bye. It's not good. The chances of advancing more than another round into the playoffs, i.e. past the CS, not good at all.
No, they got a bye. They do have the bye. This article I'm reading says they have the bye. Just so you know. I'm just saying they have the bye. Yankees have the bye. Yeah, they got a bye.
So then that's not good news.
I agree. I don't like the bye either. I don't like the fact that you got to sit around and wait.
With the bye, and yeah, that's actually probably the worst thing that could happen for Aaron Boone wanting his job back next season. It's still really interesting at the bottom. And we told you it was going to be up until about today, about Friday, was when we would know where everything would be. Listen, this Major League Baseball postseason is going to be very interesting. And now we've been talking about the American League for so long, we've kind of forgotten the National League, which has fallen into a conundrum and a conniption with 3 days to go in the season.
Alliteration aside. And the Tigers continue to win. They win yesterday. Detroit, a win away from clinching a wild card spot now. So that is still one of the great stories going on in the game as well. All right, real quick, WNBA. You know how you know the WNBA is really catching fire? You've got coaching firings, and they're actually news now. Teresa Witherspoon fired as head coach of the Chicago Sky. Angel Reese was apoplectic on social media yesterday, saying, "She's the reason I came to Chicago." No, Angel, the reason you came to Chicago is because Chicago drafted you. Just want to make sure we make that clear. But Teaspoon gets the gate. The Sparks fired their head coach. Mutual parting of the ways this week. So the coaching carousel in the WNBA, already on the move. Teaspoon out in Chicago after just 1 year, by the way. Kind of a weird firing.
Yeah, it was. But the Angel Reese playing LeBron thing, that can't last. We can't do that for much longer. I'm sorry, Angel Reese, you just finished your rookie season. You have no say in who the head coach is.
That is something to consider. We're coming back. Page versus the Prince. Week 4 NFL picks. They're coming up. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Friday. Don't forget, SportsWrap Weekends, our 30-minute wrap-up show of everything that was this week. That's coming your way on some of these same affiliates. If not, look around on the dial. You'll find it. Don't forget SportsWrap Podcast, available on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and a whole bunch more. It is Friday, and ladies and gentlemen, that can only mean one thing.
It's Friday, and that means it's time for the weekly face-off for sports betting bragging rights. It's Paige versus the Prince on the Sports Wrap.
Thank you, Chad Erickson, Sam Yarnell, a luscious 8-4 through 3 weeks. Yours truly, a pedestrian 6-6. Still lots of time to make up ground. 1-0-4, 1-4-0, and boom. Plenty of time to make up ground. Slow and steady wins the race. Tortoise versus the hare. Take whatever metaphor you want. Sam Yarnell, you are up first.
All right, Jason, back to the traditional way this week. I know I went a little wacky last week. I think I had like 3 totals and 1 side, but we're back to 2 totals, 2 sides, 1 dog, 1 favorite. Here we go. All right, we'll start with my favorite, the Cincinnati Bengals, laying 4.5 against the Carolina Panthers. Why? Yeah, it was 1 week. I mean, this happens every time they bench a quarterback. The new guy comes in, they have 1 week, the offense looks insane, and then what happens the week after? They're always horrible. It's a principle play here, and the Cincinnati Bengals really need a get-right game, and this is what it is. So I love this Bengals laying the 4.5 here. If you want, go ahead and alt it up for your pleasure, but for the sake of the show, we'll go Bengals minus 4.5 against the Carolina Panthers. Next, the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix are getting over a touchdown in Jet Life, and I love them. Give me the Denver Broncos plus 7.5 against the New York Jets. Listen, the Jets have won 2 in a row, and Aaron Rodgers has talked about it all week. It's a team that has not shown that they know how to win yet, or that they're comfortable with winning. What happens when they play a bad team? They get too comfortable with their winning, and they lose. I do think this is a game that the Jets could lose outright, especially after how good Bo Nix looked last week. Listen, he didn't throw an interception, which was the biggest concern with the rookie quarterback, especially heading into this second stretch of the season, was his decision-making and his ability to get the ball where he needed to get it. He showed us last week he could do it. I think it continues again this week. Give me the Broncos plus 7.5. I think that game also is a rock fight. All right, my 2 totals. Steelers Colts under 39.5. Where are the points coming from in this game? The Steelers offense has scored 23 points all season? And Anthony Richardson, speaking of throwing interceptions, let's see what Anthony Richardson does against that Steelers defense. I think he throws a few interceptions in this game. I don't think we get a lot of points. Give me under 39.5 in Steelers Colts. And then under 40.5 in Patriots Niners. The Niners are still a little banged up offensively. The Patriots are horrible offensively. So I think that the Niners score a few touchdowns and the Patriots are quickly put to rest. This game finishes 21-3, 24-7, something like that. Never gets close to 40.5. So Bengals minus 4.5, Broncos plus 7.5, Steelers Colts under 39.5, and Patriots Niners under 40.5. Those are my Prince's picks for week 4.
All right, Sam Yarnell. By the way, I heard Kurt Warner on with Pat McAfee yesterday suggest that Andy Dalton is still a top 16 quarterback, top 20 quarterback in the league. Just wanted to put that out there. Head trauma is real, kids. Don't take too many shots to the head. All right, let's get to my picks. Did I say that? I did. Let's get to my picks real quick. Bengals. I'll go Bengals minus 4.5 this week. I mean, sorry, not Bengals. I was looking at yours. Sorry. Vikings plus 3 in Green Bay. Talk about head trauma. Vikings plus 3 in Green Bay this week. Look, I foreshadowed it earlier in the show. I love Minnesota and what they're doing. I think the Malik Willis, magical run here early on comes to an end. I like the Vikings on the road plus 3. I think they remain unbeaten. Give me the Steelers minus 1.5. Sam likes the under in this game. I like the number. I'll take the Steelers minus 1.5 for a lot of the reasons that we heard Sam talking about. And I think Pittsburgh and I think Justin Fields is only getting more comfortable within this offense right now as well. I expect they're going to gradually be able to produce more in terms of output. Raiders minus 1.5 at home against the Browns. It's Cleveland, man. I mean, I'm sorry. At this point, we got to kind of accept what this team is. I like what the Raiders have done. I like what Antonio Pierce said last week. I think the team will respond after a horrible performance at home against the Panthers. Give me the Raiders minus 1.5 in a bounce back spot. And Sam, we don't do easy games. I'm gonna give you a hard one. Give me the Ravens minus 2.5 at home against the Bills. This is where the Bills' dream ride comes to an end, ladies and gentlemen. 4 quarters of football from Baltimore, and I'll go with the Ravens minus the 2.5. Why? Because why not? I kind of like it. And I knew Sam would make a face when I said it. It's going to wrap it up for us. Come on, Sam. Come on, I'll give you a sec.
I knew that pick was coming. I can read you like a book.
Yeah.
Give me Josh Allen to throw for 300 yards in that game. I don't care what the number is. Book it. Add it to my card.
Thanks, Damon Bruce. Thanks, Tino Pattigno. Thanks, Sam. We'll see you all back here on Monday or for Sports Wrap weekends. Have a great weekend.